Okay, so you officially know the meeting is now being recorded, okay? All right, so folks, welcome back. I hope you're doing well. So do you have any general questions at this time about the exam that you just took? Okay.
You're going back into like grade the open-ended Zen, right? Like right now they just count it as zeros.
That's correct, Reese. Okay, I will be reviewing all exams in their entirety over the next several days. So the grade that was reported to you is most definitely not your final grade. Okay. Um, anything else?
When are you going to post the actually grade, the actual rate?
Okay, Aileen. Fair enough. Uh, with a normal week, I try to have a turnaround that's very rapid, but this week is not normal for me because of my conference. So I will do my best to get them out to you by the end of day on Friday. Okay. If I
Okay.
can do it before, I will, but I won't promise anything before Friday. Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. So there's a question in the chat window. Are we going to have assignments or are our grades only from test scores? Emily, you recall from your syllabus that you are also awarded course grade credit for your homework in lab, right? You are earning 14% of your grade simply by doing homework in lab. So your course grade is a combination of exams and homework. Okay. All right. Any other questions right now? Okay. All right, folks. So congratulations on getting through it. I know it's a bit stressful, but if you think honestly, it is supposed to be stressful, right? It is supposed to challenge you. Okay. All right. So welcome back. Let's talk about the week ahead and into the future. Okay. So you know at this time that you will have lecture on Wednesday. You will be with Professor Mason. She will continue your conversation on the integumentary system, and a specialized Zoom link was sent out in last week's email. So remember to use that for Wednesday's lecture. There is no lab on Wednesday, so if you're here as a Wednesday student, fantastic. If not, I will be sending out the recording link later today. Folks, a week from today, we start our fall break at Hack, right? Next Monday and Tuesday is fall break at Hack, which means that the college is officially open, but there are no classes held next Monday and Tuesday. Okay, so next Monday and Tuesday, you have no classes to log into. What that means for us, of course, is that since there's not going to be a Monday lab, I'm also not going to have a Wednesday lab because I need to keep both sections balanced with each other. Okay, so in other words, you are not going to be back in lab for 2 weeks. And I
Is
know
that
that.
why our homework wasn't due today? Our homework wasn't due. It's not due till next week or the following week.
Correct,
14th.
Joni. Correct, Joni. Let me cover that, okay? All right. So again, you will not be back in lab for 2 weeks. And I know that's, a wonderful thing as a student, but remember, you don't want to lose touch with what your responsibilities are in the course because it can come back to bite you in the end. Okay. So there was no lab homework due today. No lab homework due today. Okay. So the lab homework that is assigned to you is due in 2 weeks, and it's lab exercises 11 and 6 that will be due in 2 weeks. Okay. All right. Any questions about that schedule? All right, folks. So this is the last time we will be together for over a week. Okay, so hooray! I don't have to see that ugly guy again for over a week. That's wonderful. Okay, so all right, let's continue here. Okay, so what we're going to do is start the second part of our lab curriculum, which is beginning to learn the skeletal muscles of the body. So let me ask you in the chat window, okay? Let me ask you in the chat window. Okay. Do you have a copy of the skeletal muscle word bank in front of you? Because I can't continue, folks, if you don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. Fantastic. That's awesome. Awesome, right? So remember, if you don't have a copy of the skeletal muscle word bank, it was sent out in email about a week ago. And so all you have to do is check your email for the skeletal muscle word bank. Okay. All right, folks. So can I get a cheer from you, or at least a smile, that this word bank is a lot shorter than the first word bank? Okay, very good. All right, very good. So there's that's nice, but you know that there's always going to be a large but involved, right? There's always a but involved, okay? So it is true that this word bank is shorter, but there's two things you have to realize. And first off, the first thing is that on your next lab exam, there are going to be two things that you are held responsible for. I'm going to type them into the chat window for you as I continue to talk. For lab exam 2, you are responsible for the following two items: muscle identification and tissue identification. Okay. Muscle identification and tissue identification. Today, we are going to begin the work with the skeletal muscle identification. I'm going to get you started so you know how to do what you're supposed to do. Okay. And then what I'm going to do, because there's going to be a 2-week break for lab, there's going to be a 2-week break for lab. What I'm going to do is send you out in an email today, or maybe tomorrow, depends. I'm going to send you an email out that contains what I refer to as a histology packet. The histology packet is homework for you. The histology packet is not due until October 26th. It is not due until October 26th. So that's 3 weeks from today, okay? Folks, let me share my screen with you so you can see what the histology packet is going to look like and what I want you to do. Okay, so bear with me. I'm just sharing my screen here. Okay. So the histology packet, that's not it. Okay. Folks, this is the histology packet. On your computer screen, you should see an image of some tissue. Page 1, it has some kind of pinkish tissue here with some letters, some arrows, some brackets, some boxes. Okay, here's page 2. Here's page 3. Okay, the whole idea here is that I need you to start getting comfortable with identifying tissue. So what your homework over the next 3 weeks, will be for the tissue packet is to go through this packet of information page by page and try to identify everything with a letter. For example, in letter A, I'm referring to everything in this square box. So I'm asking you, what is this? What is this? So A, B, C, D, and E, try to identify what the structure is and write it down. There's also space there for noting the function of the structure, the purpose of the structure, or space that you can write general comments. That's simply so that you have something to help trigger your own memory while you're studying. But the broader goal here is that if I show you an example of a picture like this on an exam, you would be able to tell me what this is. So folks, hold on one moment. Okay, I'm going to bring the chat window up and let me ask you a question. What kind of tissue is shown on your computer right now? What is this? Okay. All right. So Denise, I appreciate that you said connective tissue, and Cheyenne, you said connective tissue. So it's clear to me that I need to do a better job with my instructions. Yes, this is connective tissue, but specifically what type? What type of connective tissue is this? Okay, it is not loose, no. Okay, no, it's not loose, it's not irregular. Okay, folks, this is hyaline cartilage. Hyaline cartilage, okay? So, obviously you have some work to do, but it's okay. You have 3 weeks to do the homework. And let's see, our next lab exam is November 2nd. So you have nearly a month to get ready for this, okay? All right. So folks, any questions about what I'm going to be asking you to do for lab exam 2? All right. Okay, folks. So expect that I will send out that histology packet sometime today or tomorrow, and you can begin working on it in addition to your normally assigned lab exercises in your syllabus. Okay? All right. Folks, any other questions at this time? All right. Okay. So let me tell you what our plan is then for the remainder of the morning. What I'm going to do is start showing you how to think about the skeletal muscles on the word bank using visible body. I'm going to go over several examples of that with you to show you how to use the software and give you a strategy for learning this content. After that, I'm going to assign each of you a section of the skeletal muscle word bank that I want you to become a master on. And so I'm going to give you like a 30-minute study hall to do that. After that study hall, we're going to go in one breakout room where you test out your new knowledge by trying to explain what you've just learned to each other. It's going to be a little rough because this is the first time you're exposed to it, and that's okay. So I'm going to show you some things. You're going to learn some things. You're going to teach some things today. After that, we will call it quits, and you folks can head out. Okay, so that's our goal for this morning. All right. Any questions before we start? All right. I appreciate you hanging in there. I know it's no fun to take a long, challenging exam and then go right back into a multi-hour lab. I know that that's no fun, okay? But this is school, all right? And there's some challenge to it. So go ahead and fire up your visible body software. I'm going to do the same thing. Okay. So on my screen, you should see a boat wreckage in the ocean, followed by the chat window is up and some videos of you are up. And I'm going to bring up visible body at this time. Okay. Okay, folks. So as is typical, I'm going to show you some things. I want you to do the same things on your own personal software, your own personal devices as we go along to make sure you can do these things. Because the more comfortable you feel with the software, the better able you are to prepare for your lab exam. Okay, so with the system views window up, right, we're not looking at the skeletal system anymore. Go down till you find the muscular system views. Muscular system views. Okay. And so let's see here. Let's continue over for the different views. Continue over until you get to number 18, which should be the knee view. Okay, it shows you the legs. So click on the legs, number 18. Okay. And what I want you to do is focus in on the thigh region. Make it as big as you can on your screen. Make the thighs as big as you can on your computer screen. Okay. All right. So folks, I have a question coming through the chat window. If I could spell, it would go much better. Okay. What four muscles make up the quadriceps femoris muscle group? Do you know the answer to that? What four muscles make up the quadriceps femoris muscle group? You know, when you are in the gym doing squats, right? You're doing squats. Exactly what four muscles of the quadriceps femoris muscle group are you straining, right? I'm going to the gym today. I'm going to work out my quads. What are you working out? Anybody know? All right, so it's pretty typical that folks don't know, so don't feel bad if you don't know. Obviously, let's take a look at that phrase, quadriceps. Thank you, Tony, for the answer. It is not completely right, but I appreciate the participation. So folks, quadriceps femoris, okay? Quadriceps femoris is a muscle group. It is not an individual muscle. So therefore, on your word bank, you do not see the phrase quadriceps femoris, because on your word bank, I did not put muscle groups. I put individual muscles, okay? So on your word bank, if you have a copy in front of you, it's probably on the second page. Go to the section that says leg and thigh, leg and thigh, leg and thigh, okay? Look under leg and thigh, okay? All right, so under leg and thigh, we're going to find the four muscles that make up the quadriceps femoris muscle group. So think about that term, quadriceps, quad suggesting four. There are four muscles in this muscle group. And of course, femoris is referring to the femur, right? So it's telling you that these muscles are in some way related to the femur. Okay, so folks, here they are. The four muscles of the quadriceps femoris muscle group are the rectus femoris, the vastus medialis, okay, vastus medialis, vastus lateralis, and vastus intermedius. Okay, those four muscles are part of the quadriceps femoris muscle group. On your exam, I will not ask you about the quadriceps femoris muscle group. I will ask you about any one of these 4 muscles that make up the quadriceps femoris muscle group, okay? So these 4 muscles are your quads when you're doing squats or something at the gym, okay? All right, so let's use the software together. So if I'm going too fast, say something and slow me down. If you're having a problem, interrupt me so that we don't lose you, okay? So with the leg clearly focused on your device, let's take a look at the first muscle, which is the rectus femoris. Okay, this is the rectus femoris. Okay, the rectus femoris. Okay, and what I'm going to do is actually shrink my image a little bit so you can see the entire muscle. Now, folks, let me say something to ease your mind about something. On your first lab exam, there were questions where I had an individual bone and you simply had to tell me what the bone was. For example, I think one of the bones I had on your first lab exam was the maxilla, right? It was just all by itself and you had to tell me that's the maxilla. I will not do that with the muscles. In other words, just watch your computer screen. Don't do what I'm going to do. Just watch. On your lab exam 2, I will never do this. I will never do that. That would be cruel. Okay? Yeah, what is that? I mean, that would be cruel. Okay? I'm not going to do that to you. I will never do that to you. Now, let me say that. Let me say something. If you are going to be a surgeon, your test will be like that because you have to know it that well, right? But none of you are training at this moment to be a surgeon. So the picture on your screen is something I will not ever do to you. But here's what I will do. Okay, I could have the leg up like this, and I might have an arrow drawn onto it like this, right? That I could do to you. That I might do to you and say, okay, what is the name of the muscle with the arrowhead on it? And you'd have to tell me, oh, that's the rectus femoris, okay? So that might very well happen, okay? All right, so let's see here. I don't want that arrow up the whole time, so I'm gonna just reset that, okay? Oh, don't do that to me. How in the world do I get rid of that? Okay. So at any rate, folks, I just want to alleviate your fears that I'm never going to show you an individual muscle and say, hey, what is that? The muscles I ask you to identify will always be highlighted in a surrounding context of other muscles and sometimes bones, okay? All right. So go ahead and highlight the rectus femoris if you haven't done so. Highlight that with your software. And what I want to show you next is the following. When you learn about muscles, the skeletal muscles in particular, it can be very helpful to know and identify what are the insertions and origins of the muscle. Insertions and origins are important, okay? Insertions and origins. The origin would be the bone that the muscle connects to, that where the bone really doesn't move. The insertion would be the bone that the muscle connects to that does move when the muscle contracts, okay? So insertions and origins are important, and you can get those on your software very easily. In your software, with the rectus femoris highlighted, go ahead, go up to the details icon, which is a red arrow, excuse me, a red hammer-like structure, details, click on that, okay? And then you're going to have to magnify it on your computer screen. I'll do the same thing. Folks, when you magnify in here, do you see these little pins? Those little pins, take a look. So apparently the rectus femoris has an origin with the ilium of the os coxa, the ilium of the os coxa. It also has an alternative origin with the pubis bone of the os coxa. Okay, so for the rectus femoris muscle, the two origins are the ilium and pubis, ilium and pubis. Okay, so folks, at this time, when you think about having to know insertions and origins, does it make sense why we challenged you to learn the skeleton as deeply as we did, right? You've got to know the skeleton if you're going to understand what the muscle's attached to. It's just a prerequisite. You got to do it. Okay, so the red pins are the origins, and the blue pins are going to be the insertions, right? The rectus femoris inserts at your kneecap, your patella. Okay, so, you know, on a future lab exam, I will not explicitly ask you what the insertion or origin of a muscle is. I won't ask it. But when you're studying, it can be helpful to identify what the muscle is if you know what the insertions and origins are. Okay, so pay attention to insertions and origins during your personal study time, because that can help you identify the muscle that you're being challenged to identify. Okay. All right, so obviously our software is pretty sophisticated, and you can see up here in the details window that in other areas of life, you know, you could ask it to put in the blood supply for the muscle. You could ask it to put in the nerves for the muscle. Okay, you don't have to know any of that for our course at this time. Just focus on identifying the muscle. Just identify the muscle. Okay, and of course, there are some cartoon animations which reveal how the muscles actually work, right? And you can look at that and explore that on your own time, right? The software is very comprehensive. It's very powerful, and you got it for $25, right? Okay, so let me type into the chat window. Were you able to ask the software to locate the origins and insertions of the rectus femoris? Okay. Do you need me to repeat anything? Any problem points you need me to talk about? Okay, folks. Good stuff. All right, so now you know how to pick a muscle and ask for the insertions and origins. Okay, so let's back out of that. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of that. Okay, you now know where the rectus femoris muscle is. Obviously, it's right on the superficial anterior surface of your thigh. Okay, all right. We have 3 other muscles to learn for the quadriceps femoris muscle group. One of them is the vastus medialis. Well, medialis refers to the midline of the body, so it should not be a surprise to you that that is in fact the vastus medialis. Okay, so you now know where the vastus medialis is. All right, let's do the vastus lateralis. The vastus lateralis is in fact lateral. There it is, right? The vastus lateralis. Okay. All right. Now, I have a question, another question in the chat window. Why can't you see the vastus intermedius at this time? Why can't you do that? Okay, because there's no way to see it. All right. Okay, good. Exactly. It's not on the surface. It's not a superficial muscle. Okay. You know, be very careful here, right? When we say superficial, we're not talking about somebody's personality. We're talking about the fact that the structure is on the surface of the body, right? So the vastus intermedius is deep to one of these muscles, and it's deep to the rectus femoris. So highlight your rectus femoris, highlight the rectus femoris, and then hide it. Ask it to go away. Okay? When you hide it, you now have the vastus intermedius. The vastus intermedius is deep to, it is underneath the rectus femoris muscle. Okay? All right. So that's probably a talking point that you want to pay attention to. Some of the muscles on your word bank are going to be harder to identify and locate because they're not on the surface of the body. They are deep within the body. They are inside, deep to the superficial muscles. The vastus intermedius is one example. So be aware that if you're having trouble, you may need to look interior to the flesh of the body. Okay, so all right. Any questions so far? All right. So let me just show you something. You can either follow me along in your software or just watch on your screen. It doesn't matter to me. Okay. I'm going to go back to the main menu, muscle system views, and I'm going to go to number 20, which is the entire body. Okay. And what I want to show you is that, you know, when you're really looking at the software, you have to pay attention to some things. Okay. So on the software, on that person's right leg, I'm going to take the rectus femoris and I'm going to hide it. And what I want you to do is compare the appearance of the vastus intermedius on the right leg to the rectus femoris on the left leg. Okay? Because when we're working on a flat two-dimensional computer screen, it can be a little confusing because you don't have that true depth perception that we would like you to have. So if I rotate the body a little bit on that right leg, can you see that the vastus intermedius is kind of deep to the vastus lateralis? Can you get that perspective from the software? I need you to pay attention to this artificial perspective of depth that the software is trying to convey to you. And the way you do that is be sure you really zoom in and you start to rotate so that you get this pseudo three-dimensional effect. Pseudo three-dimensional effect. You want to pay attention to that when you're studying. And finally, once again, in the chat window, how does the vastus intermedius look different from the rectus femoris? How does it look different? Describe to me in the chat window, how does the vastus intermedius look different from the rectus femoris? I mean, if you were looking at this picture on the exam, how would you know which muscle is the vastus intermedius and how would you know which is the rectus femoris? Okay, so Cheyenne says its length is different. I would agree with that. It clearly is different, right? The length is different. The rectus femoris is longer, isn't it? So the length is different. Okay, Denise, you say its origin looks inferior to the origin of the rectus femoris. Okay, I can somewhat agree with that. Okay, one is medial and one is to the right. That's a little bit fuzzy, Tony. I'm not sure I would completely agree with that. Folks, what about the coloration? What about the coloration? Okay, fair enough. Okay, folks, do you see that the vastus intermedius has what appears to be a much longer tendon, and in fact, the weight, some of that whiteness. So let me draw, even though I'll regret it and have to reset things here. Okay, right? Take a look at this, right? Okay, that's all white on the vastus intermedius, and this is all white on the rectus femoris. You notice that difference there. That's important. That could be the piece of information that you need to key on to separate these two muscles properly on an exam. Okay, and so let me say that on the vastus intermedius, right, we definitely have the tendon here, but some of this upper region right here is what would be more appropriately known as fascia, right? Fascia. Fascia, fascia, right? Fascia is connective tissue that merges off the surface of the muscle with the fabric of the tendon itself. Okay? So what I'm saying is, when you look at the muscles, also pay attention to the connective tissue that's attached to the muscle, because that might be what tells you the difference between two muscles that look the same. Two muscles that look the same, you might be able to identify or distinguish them by looking at the connective tissue, in addition to some of the other things you mentioned, such as the length of the muscles. Okay? I mean, if I give you a picture like this, where I do not show you the top of the muscle, you won't know which is longer, will you? You won't know which is longer, but you will know which is different based on the connective tissue. So what I'm saying is, you really need to burn your eyes on these muscles and make sure you're looking at the detail of things so that you can correctly identify them in the future. Okay, folks, any questions? All right, so now you know 4 muscles of your word bank. You know 4 of them, right? Quadriceps femoris muscle group, you know all 4. Okay, folks, let's do another one. Let's do another one. And for this one, we're going to go to your abdominal area. So bring up the abdominal area with your chest a little bit. Make it as big as you can on your computer screen. Okay, and the muscle that we are going to search for is the following. It is the quadratus lumboris. Okay, quadratus lumboris. So let's think about this. Okay, obviously lumboris refers to the lumbar region of your back, right? Lumbar vertebrae. Okay, so this is a muscle that's going to be found in the lower back region. And quadratus lumborum, that prefix quad comes up again, right? So let's clarify here, okay? With quadriceps femoris, because this was a muscle group, the prefix quad referred to 4 muscles, okay? With quadriceps femoris, because this was a muscle group, the prefix quad referred to 4 muscles, okay? Quadratus lumborum is an individual muscle. So here, the prefix quad refers to 4 contact points. Okay, quadratus lumborum is an individual muscle. So here the prefix quad refers to 4 contact points. Okay, folks, be very careful there, right? That prefix quad refers to different things between whether you're talking about a muscle group or an individual muscle. If it's an individual muscle, then quad is referring to 4 contact points. If it is a muscle group, then it's referring to 4 muscles. So you need to be careful you understand what the words are, how the words are contextualized. Okay, so folks, what we're going to do next is a virtual surgery. We're going to do some virtual surgery to find this muscle. Okay, so with the abdominal region and chest highlighted on your computer screen, let's take a look at one muscle here. This is your external oblique. Okay, so first, on your word bank, go to the section that says trunk. Go to the section that says trunk. Okay, and you'll see at the bottom there, you'll see the word quadratus lumborum. Okay, that's what we're after. So now let me ask you this. On your computer screen, you have external oblique highlighted. Is external oblique on your word bank? It's there, isn't it? Okay. So on our journey to find the quadratus lumborum, you're going to encounter many other muscles that you are also responsible for. Okay. So right now, you know what the external oblique looks like. Okay, and I just happen to be using the left side right now. So go ahead and hide the external oblique. Okay, and it goes away. It goes away. All right. All right, folks. So let me ask each of you a question in the chat window. Okay, hold on one moment. Okay, when you are at the gym working on your 6-pack, what muscle are you working on? Okay, so Reese, you say abdominals, okay? There really is no abdominals, right? But you're in the right area. Cheyenne, you're not working the obliques, okay? Aileen and Rachel, yes, the rectus abdominis, the rectus abdominis. Okay, so let's highlight this. Here's the left rectus abdominis, okay? Now, folks, I'm going to de-highlight it. I'm going to de-highlight it. Does the rectus abdominis really look like it's a 6-pack? Does it really look like it's a 6-pack, or what pack is it? What kind of pack is it? Okay, all right. All right, so, okay, so Tony, you say 4. Okay, from what you've seen, that would be true. So let me get rid of the other side here, okay? So do you really have a 6-pack, or do you have an 8-pack? Do you have a 6-pack, or do you have an 8-pack? All right, folks, let me tell you something. You don't have an 8-pack either. You have a 10-pack. Take a look. Take a look. Okay, down here's a muscle. I will momentarily hide it. Take a look at that. You have 10 muscle bellies. You have 10 muscle bellies, right? They are here, 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 here. You see what I'm doing here? Gets a little tedious, right? And that last one, okay? You have 10 muscle bellies. So you do not have a 6-pack. You do not even have an 8-pack. You have a 10-pack, folks. You have a 10-pack. Question coming in the chat window. Why do folks never talk about a 10-pack in the gym? Fair enough, Tony. They may not really know, right? I mean, before you had this course, would you have even considered this? Okay, So Reese, your observation, the last two are below the waist. Yeah, okay. It's a matter of modesty, right? I mean, if you literally showed people the bottom muscle bellies, right, you would be very indiscreet as such, right? You'd have to be comfortable with being naked in the gym, right? So, and most people are not that comfortable with things, so they don't do that, okay? So you do have a 10-pack. You don't have a 6-pack, but generally you don't talk about that because you can't see the lower ones when they're covered up with your sweatpants, okay? Okay. Yes, Tony, kids do all kinds of things today. Yes, I know. All right. So, okay, folks. So, what I'm going to do is reset my computer because I know what I want to show you. So, just give me a moment. I just want to reset this back to the original view. Okay. And let me just go over here. Just ignore those blobs of green there. Okay. Okay, so we've gotten rid of the external muscle there. All right, so now on your software, highlight the left rectus abdominis and hide it. Okay. Now, once again, folks, if you're not careful, it will look like the left and right side of the belly region are kind of the same. But take a look. When you rotate this, you get that depth perspective of how the left side is deep to the right side. Okay, can you see that sense of depth in your own software? Can you see that depth in your own computer? I need you to pay attention to depth. Okay. All right, folks. By the way, some of you see this kind of hole down here. That's simply an artifact in the software. You do not have a natural hole there, okay? So don't worry about that. All right. Okay, so now let's click this muscle, which is the transversus abdominis. Okay. Transversus abdominis, is that on your word bank? Is the transversus abdominis in your word bank? It certainly is, isn't it? So now you know where it's at and hide it. Okay, get rid of it. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we're inside the abdominal cavity. We're inside the abdominal cavity. Okay. Now, folks, let's see here. Let's get rid of this internal oblique muscle because that's going to be in our way as well. The internal oblique muscle is right here. It's also on your word bank, is it not? Okay. The internal oblique is on your word bank. So go ahead and hide that muscle. Okay, now we have a nice open view inside the body. Okay. All right, so now if your computer looks anything like mine at this time, what you see is you're inside the abdominal cavity. And you notice that the software is bringing up a lot of these golden yellow tubes, which are nerves. That's nice, but you don't have to know them right now. So they're really kind of in our way. So let's get rid of them. So to get rid of all the yellow, go down to Systems in the lower left corner and click on the brain icon for nervous tissue. Click on the brain icon for nervous tissue. Okay, you should click it and it should all disappear. If you clicked it and it added more, then click it again and it should take it all away. So at this point, you should now have a computer screen where you have a nice, pretty picture of the inside of your body with the surrounding muscles. Okay. Okay. All right. So folks, before I continue, any problems, any questions? All right, let's continue. All right, I want to show you some things, right? Along our journey to find the quadratus lumborum, you're encountering muscles that you're responsible for, right? And so one of the muscles is this psoas minor muscle. It's a tiny little sliver of muscle, okay? And I want to show you something about this, okay? So folks, with the psoas minor muscle highlighted, go up to the structure window and click on the definition icon and expand that. And I'm going to read to you the first two sentences. The first sentence says that the psoas minor is a weak flexor of the iliac region of the proximal leg. Fair enough. Look at the second sentence. It is absent in about 60% of people. Folks, 60% of us in this virtual room right now, statistically speaking, do not even have this muscle. Okay? And I'm pointing this out to show you that there truly is variation and variety in our body structures. So Cheyenne, you ask a very logical follow-up question. Why not? The answer is because we are genetically different. We are genetically distinct. You know, why did our species develop in such a way? Why did the evolution of the human body on our planet develop in such a way so that some people have it and some don't? It's a fair question, but we don't have an answer for that. We don't know. Okay, we really don't know. Okay, it is a muscle that 60% of us don't have and 40% of us do have. Do the people that have the psoas minor have some additional ability, like superhero ability, that those that don't have it don't have? The answer is no, not really. Okay, there's no measurable distinction there. All we're pointing out is that we are different. Okay, why some of us have it and others don't, nobody truly knows the answer to that question. Okay, I doubt very much we will ever know the answer to that question. Tony, it is a little bit like someone born with apple peel syndrome, right? I mean, certainly the ultimate reason why someone has the muscle and someone else doesn't comes down to a difference in gene expression during embryonic development of your body. But precisely why that happened or how it happened, we do not understand. Okay. All right. So folks, I'm just pointing that out. Here's the psoas minor. It's on your word bank. Okay. Folks, tell me in the chat window, what heading of your word bank do you find psoas minor? Okay, thank you, Rachel and Alexandria. Appreciate it. It is under the thigh, right? It's under the thigh. Okay. Very good. Okay, folks. So now you know the psoas minor, and most of us don't have it. Okay, most of us don't have it, but some of us do. All right, go ahead and hide that muscle. So get rid of the psoas minor on your computer screen. Okay, after that, please highlight the psoas major, right? The psoas major is inferior to the psoas minor. Psoas minor lies on top of the psoas major. So here we have the psoas major. You also are responsible for it. Go ahead and hide it. Get rid of the psoas major. Okay, folks, we have almost come to the end of our journey here. I mean, we basically have. Okay, so I'm zooming in here. Now take a look on your computer screen or on my computer screen. You should now see a weird little muscle that makes 4 contact points. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 contact points with 4 lumbar vertebrae. Okay, so what the heck is that beast? Oh, it is the quadratus lumborum. It is the quadratus lumborum. Folks, we had to cut through so much of your body from the anterior perspective to get to the quadratus lumborum. Okay, so you now see it. All right. So just for giggles, go up and click the details button on the quadratus lumborum. And what I want to show you here is that you actually have an insertion with the 12th rib. The quadratus lumborum literally connects to the 12th rib of the thoracic cage. Think about that. Okay, think about that. So this muscle actually has an insertion on the bottom rib, and if we rotate, it has 4 insertions with the 4 vertebrae. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I can barely fit that onto my screen. All right, so we have 4 insertions there. Okay, and then we have an origin on the ilium of the os coxa. All right, folks. So now you know where the quadratus lumborum is. Okay. All right. And you can see, you know, obviously we could rotate this a little bit. And you can see that there's some muscles on your back that would prevent you from seeing this. So if I click on this, I have the latissimus dorsi. I get rid of it, right? I get rid of it, and there it is again, the quadratus lumborum. Okay? All right. Okay, folks. Any questions at this time?
Yes, did you click on the little blue hammer to get that out?
To get out the latissimus dorsi?
No, for the first one that we were looking for. I had to restart all my,
Okay.
the red and the blue, the origins, is that what you clicked on?
Well, if you have a muscle highlighted, like on my screen, the quadratus lumborum is highlighted. If you click details, it will bring up those pins for you, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you can shift back and forth between the blue pins and the red pins. The red pins are the origins, the blue pins are the insertions. And then to get out of that, you simply hit.
Yes, thank you. That's what I was trying to do.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else I can help you with? Okay, folks. All right, gang. So, okay. So, any broad questions at this time about what we're doing or software issues? Okay. So at this moment, I'm going to stop the video recording because from this point forward, all we're going to do is actually some studying of this content, but I'm not giving any new instructions. Okay, so I'll stop the recording and I'll send everyone a video link later on so that folks that could not attend lab today now have the instructions they need. Okay, so bear with me.